On this week's episode of Ride the Lightning, the Tesla Motors unofficial podcast, Tesla will start cracking down on Supercharger squatters, Elon Musk meets the incoming president of the United States, and might a currently retired paint color option be about to return? All that and more right now. What's happening, friends? I'm Ryan McCaffrey, joining you as always each and every week here on Ride the Lightning, the Tesla Motors unofficial podcast for December 18th, 2016. It's episode number 72. I am fresh back. It's late at night. I've got a lot going on this weekend, so got to squeeze in the podcast where I can. Just got back from seeing Star Wars Rogue One, which was a really fun movie. Very curious to see how I feel about it after I've digested it for a bit, but my initial thought is definitely to recommend it. It is very dark. It's probably the darkest film of any of the 8 of them in tone. So be warned. I mean, it is PG-13, so it's pretty clear if you've got younger children. I know I won't be taking my 5-year-old to it, but really quite an interesting film. So I'm sure it's going to do quite well at the box office. Anyway, plenty going on this week. In fact, despite the fact that it's December, we're heading towards the holidays, Tesla news doesn't slow down. First big story this week was Elon Musk joining a bunch of tech industry executives such as Apple CEO Tim Cook, Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos, in a meeting with President-elect Donald Trump as part of the President-elect's Tech Industry Summit. Here's Elon introducing himself at that big meeting.
Elon Musk, the CEO of SpaceX and Tesla, building rockets and cars and solar stuff in the U.S. I'm really excited about expanding our manufacturing footprint in the U.S.
Elon's going to be part of the incoming president's Strategic and Policy Forum, a group of high-profile businessmen that will be, quote, called upon to meet with the president frequently to share their specific experience and knowledge as the president implements his economic agenda, end quote. And in fact, here is Donald Trump addressing not just Elon, but the entire group about what he is thinking with this whole tech summit thing that he held at Trump Tower in New York.
I'm here to help you folks do well. And you're doing well right now, and I'm very honored by the bounce. They're all talking about the bounce, so right now everybody in this room has to like me at least a little bit, but we're going to try and have that bounce continue. And perhaps even more importantly, we want you to keep going with the incredible innovation. There's nobody like you in the world. There's nobody like the people in this room. And anything we can do to help this go along, and we're going to be there for you. And
well, I'll tell you, I've struggled with whether or not to even do this story because, I just would prefer to keep politics out of this podcast as much as possible. You probably get enough of it in your daily lives, your other daily feeds. And, I want this podcast to be a fun thing about Tesla and about our passion and enthusiasm for the cars and for the company. But in this case, I thought it appropriate because it is as direct a situation as possible. It's not, there's nothing sort of second degree about this. It is Elon directly meeting with Trump. So I got to say, regardless of your politics and of Elon's, I believe, based on covering this guy for the last number of years, that guy being Elon, of course, I really think that Elon is not looking at this emotionally. I really think, in the sense of going to Trump Tower and meeting with the president-elect, I really believe, based on what I've seen of Elon and how he tends to handle things, I really think that Elon took this meeting and said to himself, okay, this is the situation now. Let me see if I can do some good here. I really think was his thought process. I don't think that Elon's playing politics or looking for any business favors. I genuinely believe that Elon wants to try and make something good out of his position on this advisory board. I think that's why he probably accepted it. And hopefully this means that Elon's going to get to continue uninterrupted with business as usual, as opposed to, the new administration coming in and trying to, change any way that Elon's doing business or shut down any sort of, or make it more difficult for him to do what he is doing, which is a lot of job growth. I mean, that is Donald Trump's big focus for him is growing jobs, particularly in industry. And Elon, has thousands of manufacturing jobs he's creating in this country. So, also, the other thing, if Trump really means what he said there, go back to what he said. He said, "I'm here to help you folks do well." And then he noted, "We want to keep you going with the incredible innovation, and we're going to be there for you." So if the president-elect really means what he said there, hopefully the government won't drag their feet when Elon's ready to deploy level 4 self-driving capability on the entire Tesla fleet. That's sort of the point I wanted to bring this around to for all of us. What does that mean? What does this meeting with Trump by Elon mean for all of us Tesla owners? And I'm hoping at the end of the day, that is what it's going to mean, is that, when Elon and the Tesla team, the autopilot team are ready with the software, the cars are ready. So when the software is ready, hopefully the government will be there waiting to sign off on it and not sort of drag their feet on for any reason whatsoever. Next up this week, Tesla is going to start cracking down on Supercharger squatters. A gentleman, a Tesla owner, tweeted Elon Musk saying, the San Mateo Supercharger, that San Mateo is right here locally in the Bay Area, by the way, and it's, most Superchargers, as all of you are well aware, are on interstates. They're between cities. They're meant for interstate travel, but in the higher concentration Tesla areas, of which the Bay Area, there quite possibly is no area with a greater concentration of Teslas than here in the San Francisco Bay Area. There are a couple of them that are in town as well. There's the one at the Fremont factory. There's one in Mountain View, which is down in Silicon Valley. And there is one in San Mateo, which is up the peninsula, about 15 miles, 17, 18 miles south of San Francisco proper. And it's outside, it's at a Whole Foods, and it's very close to the San Francisco International Airport. In fact, it's very close. It's a quick ride down. It's about, I would say, 10 minutes from SFO to hit this San Mateo Supercharger. And so, it's the issue is that Supercharger spots are being just parked on by people who are leaving their cars plugged in all night. And this is mostly not directed at average customers. This is people who have Teslas as part of their limousine service, as part of their fleet of cars in their business. And so these cars are sitting there all night, and Tesla owners are complaining and getting upset, and justifiably so. That's a complete abuse of what the system is for. So Elon replied to this tweet early in the week saying, "You're right, this is becoming an issue. Supercharger spots are meant for charging, not parking. Will take action." Now, when Elon says specifically, "will take action," he's not kidding. That's just not, when Elon says something like that, that's how it's going to go. It's going to happen. And I say that because after I had added this story to my notes for each week's show, but before I could actually sit down, as I'm doing now, and to record the show, Tesla announced that they are, in fact, doing something about it immediately. So this is very quick into action. And that plan is this. It is going to be a 40-cent per minute fine. That's 50 Canadian cents for those of you north of the border. A 40-cent per minute fine after your car has been fully charged. And if it's still sitting there plugged in after your car is fully charged, that fee will be waived if you get back to your car and unplug and leave within 5 minutes. However, if you just leave your car all night, like in the aforementioned example about limo and car service, fleet cars, you're going to be facing a rather hefty fine in the morning. And Tesla notes on their website, there is no cap on this. So if you were to do something really, nobody in this audience is going to do that, but if you were to do something extra crazy and say, leave the car parked, plugged in at a supercharger for, say, a week while you go on vacation, it's really going to hurt the wallet when you get back. Of course, I don't anticipate that many, if any, of the fines would be quite that severe, but you could be looking at over a couple $100 if you do leave it plugged in overnight. Tesla issued a statement that says, in part, quote, "We envision a future where cars move themselves once fully charged, enhancing network efficiency and the customer experience even further. Until then, we ask that vehicles be moved from the supercharger once fully charged. One would never leave a car parked at a gas station right at the pump, and the same rule applies with superchargers." There again, just plain old common sense and logic. "To be clear, this change is purely about increasing customer happiness, and we hope to never make any money from it." So, this is just a courtesy thing, folks. The Tesla community, as I've noted many times over in the past, it's a wonderful community. Based on the 7 years now that I've spent observing it and being a small part of it in my own little way. If you care enough about Tesla, the Tesla world, the Tesla community to listen to this podcast, then I got to figure you'd probably never be guilty of supercharger abuse like this. But it's a friendly reminder for those of you who do own Teslas now, and to the rest of us who will be getting them, be neighborly. Be neighborly with your fellow Tesla owners. The Tesla community, just like any community, it's only as good as its owners and enthusiasts will it to be. So let's take good care of it. Next up this week, news coming by way of a tip from Patreon producer Nick Hoffman. Nick, thank you for this tip. The seats in the Teslas, the Model S specifically, because the X this already applies to the X. The seats in the S have been upgraded for all Model S trims. You'll recall that I did a story just a few weeks ago that those premium seats from the X initially went into the P100Ds, then they went into the 90Ds or the P100Ds. Now you can choose that's the premium seats, should you wish, in any configuration from the 60 kilowatt hour base Model S all the way up. Your choices are now, when it comes to seats in your Model S, you can do the included fabric seat option or the new premium seats from the X in the usual black, tan, or the new vegan synthetic white color. And those are $2,500 options if you want to upgrade your seats. Or rather, I should actually clarify. The fabric seat is included. The premium seats in black, tan, or synthetic, the white, the ultra white, those are $2,500. The gray is gone, which I would suspect, like usual with Tesla, is all about manufacturing efficiency. And I suspect that simply nobody, or a very, very small percentage of customers were ordering that gray. It's a shame. I'm recording from the passenger seat. I'm inside my car, my Infiniti, this week because I've got a cousin visiting from New Jersey. He's out in California for the first time. I'm going to mention him. I'm going to give a shout out to Sean. He's upstairs sleeping right now. It's really late at night as I record this. He'd never been to California, so he just graduated college. He wants to work for Tesla. He's got a business degree. He wants to start, try and get his foot in the door as a product specialist at the store level. He's applied in New Jersey, and he's hoping to eventually work his way up to get out here and work for Tesla corporate. So obviously I'm very much rooting for him and willing to help him any way I can. If any of the New Jersey store managers, Tesla store managers, happen to be listening to this, give my cousin Sean a look. He's a good guy. Take a look. I helped him out with his resume. Anyway, that's a quick aside there. I've got to look out for family. But gray is gone. Yeah, that's the point I was getting at. I like gray. I had gray in my DeLorean, and my Infiniti here that I'm sitting in now is a gray interior. So I'm a fan of gray, and I liked it in the S too. I'm a fan of it, but I guess not too many people are, because gray is now gone. Oddly, the black leather seats are still available for $2,400. So only $100 less than the premium seats. So I'm not sure why that's there, because literally no one's going to click on that in the design studio. Who's going to take an inferior seat for only $100 difference, $100 less? That seems a little odd to me. But all told, I will say that I'm really, really happy to see this. To me, I mean, it was a shame. I thought it was a shame to artificially limit the new seats to the higher trim cars. That's just sort of a artificial walled garden that Tesla's generally, not really been guilty of much. But in hindsight here, I suspect it was probably due to supply issues on those premium seats back at the beginning. So that's why they just started it on the P100Ds, especially because they knew, the P100Ds were supply constrained because of the battery packs. So that meant they're only going to get so many seat orders as well, because they can only get so many car orders. But so I think it was, in hindsight, it probably was a supply issue and not Tesla, trying to artificially limit people or artificially limit the seat supply, rather, in order to drive people to upgrade their configurations. So again, like I said, they've never really been a company that's pulled that kind of thing. So if you're keeping score at home, by the way, this is now the third major seat version that Tesla has had in the S. There were the original Model S seats that, if you had the performance trim, which my cousin Pat in Arizona does, they had the colored, the accented piping around the sort of edges of the seats. Although they were interesting. The black seats had a red piping. The tan seats, I don't remember what color the tan piping was. It might have been black. But then the gray seats, which my cousin Pat has, is like a yellow piping, which is, so I always found a little odd. But so we went from those original seats to the next gen seats, and now we are up to the premium seats. And I mean, going from the original to the next gen was a huge upgrade. I haven't been in the premium seats in the S. I've sat in them in the X, and I think it's an incredibly comfortable seat relative to the other Tesla seats that have been out there. So good to see that Tesla is continuing to make improvements to the interior of the cars. Speaking of options on a Tesla, this next story, another crowdsourced one, another tip from a listener. I want to send a shout out to Doug Harper. Thank you, Doug, for sending this in. And I want to caveat this up front, and Doug acknowledged this as well, but I want to make it explicitly clear, this might be a total non-story. I'm not sure, but I wanted to mention it anyway, in case it does end up being something. Then we can look back and look at, we can point to Doug's detective work here. So the question here is green about to make a comeback as a paint color? Here's what you can do now. You can take a look at this. This is what Doug found. When you go to the Tesla website, and when you click on the new inventory option from the Tesla homepage, so, not going to the design studio, but instead taking a look at the brand new cars that Tesla has available in inventory, you can sort the cars by paint color. If you're interested in a particular color, it's at the top of the page. And you can in fact click on green. There's a green option there. I mean, when I first saw this after getting Doug's email, I thought, oh, it must just include 2012 or 2013 green CPO cars that they're using as inventory for whatever reason now. But no, in fact, I mean, or if it is, it's a miscommunication, because it says right there on that page, new cars, pre-configured, built, and ready to drive. That is the wording at the very top of the page. So that is a page for new cars. Now, when you do click on green, I've been clicking on it all week, checking in on it to see. I checked right before I recorded the show here to see if it had disappeared. It's still there as of my recording here on very, very late Friday night. But no cars show up, as you might expect. So, whereas, of course, when you click on other colors, it'll actually bring up some options for you. But it doesn't bring up anything when you click on the green. But I do expect now one of two things to happen. The green option may disappear from this page as soon as Tesla hears about this. I know there are at least a handful of Tesla employees that listen to the show. And maybe it was just a mistake, just a sort of still in there from the old, back when green was an option, still in their system, Or number two, the other option is it gets announced sometime soon. And even if that's the case, it might still disappear from the new inventory portion of the Tesla site for a little while until they're ready to formally announce it. And I have to say, I think it would be great for the green to come back. I'm not personally, it wouldn't be personally what I would choose, but I think it'd be great for it to come back, if only because Tesla could use a new paint color or two. Remember, they just recently ditched the titanium metallic silver, which was a sort of champagne type color, and they ditched solid white. So there are not many color options available on the cars right now. And green, which is something very much outside of the shades of black or gray family that accounts for 2/3 or 3/4, pretty much all of the Tesla colors available now, except for the nice blue, the blue and multi-coat red. Everything else, you've got two blacks, the flat black and the obsidian black. You've got the silver. You've got the gray. It's a dark gray, and I think I'm leaving out one color. Did I say? Oh, just the multi-coat white, pearl white. So those are all the other colors. Now, I've seen a good handful of green Model S's over time here. And like I said, I'm fairly neutral on it. I wouldn't order it. I'm fairly neutral on it in general. I personally think it's a little too dark. You can't, in my experience, you can't super tell that it's green unless you're up close to it or the car's in the right light, which is actually was kind of the case with the original metallic blue on the Model S. The Tesla, they switched to that ocean blue, that lighter blue that they have now, which I personally like better. But the green would be something different. I think it'd be interesting to try now, especially, even with it being a little on the darker side, just because with the refreshed front end, there's so much more paint on the front end now. There's no, they don't have the black nose cone. You've got just a big swath of paint across the front of the car. So that could really look pretty cool. And I have to say, I think it'd be an interesting color to see on the X as well. The S and the X share colors. Neither of them has a color that the other one doesn't. They both have the exact same color options. I'm not sure if I'd like it on the X, but I think it could be fun for some people, and I'd like to see it. I'd love to see it. Of course, that's always the kicker with paint colors. They're almost all completely subjective. So, one man's yellow is one yellow to one person is an eyesore, and to another it's a really cool sporty look. So to each their own, but we shall see. Keep an eye and see if Tesla either announces reintroduces green as a paint color option, or just if it's a mistake, they just fix it and it disappears from the new inventory website. All right, that's all I've got for you news-wise this week. I've got a really cool, eclectic variety of phone calls lined up from you guys coming up right after this in the Ride the Lightning hotline. Welcome to the Ride the Lightning hotline. It is, of course, your part of the show where I hear from you guys. I love this part of the show. It's so fun to get other people involved. You guys always have great questions, great comments, excellent discussion topics. And I remind you, of course, that you can call in anytime with those questions, comments, and discussion topics. Anytime, 24/7, and is a toll-free number. That number is 1-888-989-8752. Actually, I've got the upgraded Life on Record voicemail box, the voicemail box provided by, the hotline provided by Life on Record. I need to finish getting it set up, but everything will still work just fine. It's all transparent to you guys. But so that's, that toll-free number to call or Skype, 1-888-989-8752. That's 1-888-989-8752. Tesla, TSLA. And of course, if you know someone special with an upcoming birthday, anniversary, graduation, or some other special occasion, you can give them a unique gift of recorded voices from friends and family telling them why they're special. The recordings can be podcasted or put onto a keepsake. Please visit lifeonrecord.com. To learn more, we start from Dan in Michigan, who wanted to talk about the new law signed by Michigan Governor Rick Snyder with regard to autonomous driving vehicles. So Dan, you're on the air.
Hey Ryan, this is Dan from Michigan. I was curious to know if you've heard anything about the fact that Michigan has recently, put a law on the books to allow self-driving vehicles on the roadways in Michigan. However, they still are, from what I understand, fighting Tesla on allowing them to have a dealership. Also, they currently have a showroom, from what I understand, that they just put in Michigan, and I haven't had a chance to go up there yet. But what exactly does that look like? And since they can't actually sell cars, talk about cars, or talk about price, is it primarily focusing on things like the Powerwall and the solar roof, or can they also do they also have like car demonstrations and things like that there? Thanks.
Dan, I am glad you brought this up. Yes, here is the info on that bill via Teslarati. I want to thanks to Teslarati for this. In addition to authorizing the sale of autonomous cars, the package includes funding for the American Center for Mobility, a research campus where autonomous driving technologies can be tested before being offered to the public. Quote, by establishing guidelines and standards for self-driving vehicles, we're continuing that tradition of excellence in a way that protects the public safety while at the same time allows the mobility industry to grow without overly burdensome regulations, Governor Rick Snyder said at a bill signing ceremony. He continued saying, quote, we are still the heart and soul of the auto industry. Make no mistake about that. This legislation will turn, quote, the eyes of the world once again on Michigan for its engineering and its research, says Michigan Senator Ken Horn, a co-sponsor on this legislative package. Senator Horn continues saying, quote, it's a different kind of car building, but car building nonetheless. Let's unpack this. Ironically, the bill was endorsed wholeheartedly by Ford and GM. Oddly, no mention of Chrysler here. Not to get too far off track, but remember that I do have a standing theory that based on their seeming apathy towards electric vehicles, I have a theory that Chrysler, if they continue to not act on electric vehicles soon, I believe Tesla will replace Chrysler as one part of the American big three in the automotive industry. But yeah, the Ford and GM wholeheartedly endorsed this bill, despite, as you noted, Dan, that they have fought tooth and nail to keep Tesla from opening stores and selling their cars directly to consumers in this state. In the gallery, by the way, to answer your other question, employees that of course you recall from a week or two ago, just very, very recently, Tesla did sort of defy the government a bit and opened a gallery in Michigan. So in those galleries, Tesla employees can talk to people all about the cars. They talk all about them, but they can't sell them and they can't discuss price. They instead have to just refer customers to the Tesla website, and they, of course, have computers set up right in those galleries. So the bill, quote, authorizes the sale of autonomous cars in Michigan. So what I'm curious, does that mean that if Tesla is the first automaker to market with level 4 autonomous cars, as I expect, obviously, yes, of course I'm a Tesla fanboy, but that does seem to be where we're heading here. Does that mean that Tesla won't be able to sell them in Michigan? Because Michigan just signed a bill. They just signed a bill saying that they can be sold, but they also have a bill that's Tesla can't sell them directly to consumers. So apparently Tesla won't be able to, if I had to guess, as things stand currently. Also, I believe that Michigan State Senator Ken Horn is absolutely wrong about his quote of the eyes of the world being once again on Michigan for its engineering and its research. I would respectfully say, sorry, Senator, the world's eyes wandered to the Bay Area 4 years ago. I want to go next to Joe from Washington, D.C. I had asked last week if any of you had any stories from meeting Elon Musk. Seems I'm not the only one who hasn't met him. Joe was the only one I heard from, which is okay. If you've got a story, feel free to call in, share it, email it, record a voice memo on your phone, email it in, teslapodcast@gmail.com, however you want to do it. But Joe did have a story, so let's hear from Joe.
Hi, Ryan. Joe Edgel from Emotion Rentals in Washington, D.C. You asked about Elon's story, so I've got a good one. In 2011, I was a Brookings Legis Fellow working for a congressman on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. Elon and the SpaceX crew were making the rounds on Capitol Hill because they were locked out of the military launch market and wanted in, so they needed a change of the law. So I knew one of the SpaceX staffers and managed to set up a meeting with my boss. Elon came in and the boss wasn't ready, so I hung out for about 10 or 12 minutes and chatted Elon and his staff up, had a really great conversation. Nice guy. Boss came in, had a good meeting. Then afterwards, I escorted them out into the hallway after Elon, being the star that he is, signed a few autographs in the office. When they came out, I asked Elon if he would mind if I passed on a resume, and I handed him over my resume. I got the nicest rejection letter, Ryan, a couple of days later from his placement director. Always wanted to work for SpaceX and still do. Never managed to have that work out, but still have my fingers crossed. So anyhow, that's my Elon story. Nice guy. Would really love the chance to chat with him again. Keep up the good work on the podcast, Ryan. Bye.
Joe, good for you for passing on your resume in that scenario. Because, you've got to take the bull by the horns there. You have to take that opportunity when it comes, because that is probably a one-shot opportunity. I salute you, sir. And I'm glad to hear that Elon was so nice. And I think it's great that you not only got a moment with him, but you got about 15 moments all in a row. So that's pretty awesome. And I hope that you're still trying to get that SpaceX gig, Joe. Do not give up on that. Just absolutely do not give up. And thank you for sharing that awesome story. That was fantastic. Let's go now to Tiag from Lisbon, Portugal. Let me get that correct. Libsyn is my hosting service provider. Lisbon, Portugal, who wonders about the Gigafactory 2 in Europe that Tesla has been talking about, that they will eventually need and eventually do. So Tiag, go ahead.
Hi Ryan, Tiag from Lisbon, Portugal here. I wanted to ask your opinion on Tesla European project of a Gigafactory 2. First of all, do you think this will just be a battery factory? Or do you think it's going to be battery car production and potentially solar panels and roofs all in one place? Also, do you have any bets on what European country Tesla is going to bet on to build this Gigafactory? On a sideline, Portuguese people are really excited about Tesla going maybe into Portugal. They created a group, like a Facebook group, bring the Gigafactory to Portugal, like a Giga in Portugal. They already have more than 66,000 members. It made the national news and everything. They have already had a conference in Lisbon debating ideas, what could be done to attract Tesla to come into Portugal. And I think, to be honest, there's quite a nice few things in favor of Portugal to have Tesla interested. Apparently, Portugal is the biggest European producer of minerals with lithium, which is good for the batteries, of course. There are areas in Portugal that have the highest number of sunshine hours per year. That's in Europe. And obviously, this is in the interest of the solar energy and renewable energies. There's a good level of engineering work and maybe lower costs for Tesla, since incomes, unfortunately in Portugal, are still lower than most countries in Europe. But I guess in terms of a business, you can save some money in costs there. Yeah, so I really just wanted to hear your opinion on these matters, and thank you very much for the podcast. I always look forward for the weekend to hear it, and keep up the good work. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the call, and this is an excellent discussion topic. I think Gigafactory 2 in Europe is going to start with batteries and cars, but I think it's going to be able to scale up to produce solar panels and Powerwall should it become necessary. But I do think it's going to be batteries and cars for sure, not just batteries, because the economics of that just would make a lot more sense for Tesla if they're going to invest the money and put a massive Gigafactory 2 somewhere in Europe. It makes you're already going, if you're going that far, you might as well put in assembly lines for cars too, and build cars for Europe, so that you don't have to ship anything from California anymore there. Let's see, what else did I want to say on this? To your second question about where it's going to be built. While I do think Tesla will take factors like lithium deposits and weather into account, as you very well noted, in Portugal's favor, I honestly think it's just going to end up being, it's going to play out exactly like Gigafactory 1 in Sparks, Nevada, which is that Tesla's going to build it in whichever country gives them the best deal. I mean, Elon's going to make the best deal he can there. I mean, remember, New Mexico and Northern California were both in the mix. They were both considered for Gigafactory 1, but Nevada offered Tesla the best economic incentives package, and they took it. So they took it. I suspect we're going to see the same thing play out with regard to Gigafactory 2 in Europe. Final call this week comes to us from Chip in Cocoa Beach, Florida. He's got a Model 3 reservation, but has never been in a Tesla, and I suspect Chip may speak for a lot of the Model 3 reservation holders in the Ride the Lightning audience. So I thought we'd play Chip's call and see if I might be able to share a bit of my experience here. So, Chip, go ahead.
Hello, Ryan. This is Chip from Cocoa Beach, Florida. I have a basic and simple question. I'm a Model 3 reservation holder, yet I've never ridden in a Tesla. Can you tell us what it sounds like? How loud is a Tesla compared to an ICE car when you're riding in it? Do you hear it? Can you tell a noticeable difference from the inside? Is it like you're riding in a jet and you just hear this whooshing, or what? Help us newbies out and describe it to me. Thanks. Love the podcast. Peace out.
Thanks for the call, Chip. And I am more than happy to talk about this. This is like you're teeing me up here. I love a good excuse to talk about the Tesla experience because it always just gets me so pumped up. By the way, though, I do want to say before I get into that, Chip, that if you get a chance, I would strongly encourage you, if you can, to take a trip to the Orlando Tesla store, which, if Google is correct, is the closest store to you in Cocoa Beach. It looked like it was about an hour away from you or so. I think it's worth the trip to just go test drive the S, because they'll let you. They will make it happen for you, especially if you're a Model 3 reservation holder. What I can tell you is that, to answer your question specifically, it is a very, very quiet ride. You actually hear tire noise more than anything else, where normally it's a little strange at first because you're not used to hearing tire noise in a gas-powered car because the engine and the exhaust, the two of those, are louder than those are overpowering any tire noise that may happen. But since those don't exist in a Tesla, you've just got the tire noise. I remember the first time, it was when I had the P85 for a few days when I was reviewing it for IGN. It was a beautiful 2013 multi-coat red S. And I took it out for those of you in the Bay Area, I know I've got a lot of California listeners. I took it over through 84, Woodside, from between 280, and I was heading for the coast. And it's just nature. It's just twisty roads, farmland. It's beautiful over there. And I came up to a 4-way stop at some point, and there's just nothing else around. And just stopping at the with the windows down. It's weird to just sit there out in the middle of nature in a car and not hear anything. There's no rumble of the exhaust. There's no, that low idle of an ICE engine. So it was just strange, but in a very good way. It was like, wow, this is neat. It's just so peaceful and quiet. I love it. What else? I think the biggest takeaway, though, from a ride in a Tesla is how smooth it is. It's not even how quiet it is. It's how smooth it is, because there's no 300-pound vibrating internal combustion engine in the car. There's no transmission in the car. And of course, there's no exhaust in the car, as I just mentioned. So it's a very smooth ride, which in my humble opinion makes for a very comfortable ride. In fact, my wife commented on that exact thing the last time we were driving around in my cousin Pat's Model S, the last time we were visiting Arizona a couple months ago. So again, I really can't encourage you enough to make a trip to Drivewood if you can, Chip. And actually, this applies to all of you that have Model 3 reservations that have never been in a Tesla before. Go experience it. Tesla's very open-minded and very friendly. They are not shy about test drives, and it particularly if you're a Model 3 reservation holder, they're going to be more than interested. They'll have a business reason to let you have that test drive, in addition to just being cool, which most of them are, in my experience, because they're gonna try to see if you get hooked on the S and see if they can sell you an S now while you wait for Model 3. So everybody, if you've never been in a Tesla and you've got a Tesla store somewhere within range of you, I would encourage you to call ahead. Go on Tesla's website, see if you can make a test drive reservation, and go experience it, because it's really, really something else, and see what your future is going to be like with the Model 3. I want to thank everybody for their calls this week. Again, just a nice group of really fun and eclectic calls. So again, you can call in anytime. The toll-free number to call or Skype is 1-888-989-8752. You can also email those if you just record them on your phone in your voice memo program, and then email it to teslapodcast@gmail.com. And next week, I'll have the upgraded Ride the Lightning hotline deployed and have any additional info for you on because I think you'll be able to submit via your phone that way too. So more on that next week. I'll be right back to wrap things up for you here right after this. All right, my friends, as the year winds down, I want to give a big shout out to abstractocean.com. They've been very kind to the audience of this show by offering a 20% discount code. Again, they, as I mention every week, they have a bunch of cool Tesla accessories, both things that are for the cars and also just fun non-car part accessories, things like lanyards and other neat stuff. So if you want to take a look at the sites, you see anything that interests you, podcast listeners here can get 20% off your order, get everything in your cart, checkout, and at checkout, use the coupon code RTL Podcast. That's abstractocean.com. My Patreon is up at patreon.com/Tesla Podcast, Patreon spelled Patreon. If you appreciate this podcast, you get a lot out of it, would greatly appreciate if you would take a look at that page at least and see if you might consider supporting my efforts here. Gene and the wonderful folks at teslarati.com, their support is consistent. It is appreciated. They do a great job of covering Tesla news on a daily basis. The site's gorgeous too, since it's redesigned earlier this year. So teslarati.com, give that a look, give that a bookmark. Check in there from time to time. Dave T does his wonderful weekly Tesla newsletter. It drops every Friday into your email box, and Dave does a great job of summing up the week's Tesla news in a very bite-sized email newsletter format. So sign up for that for free at teslaweekly.com. I remind you, we are almost to 10 referrals with Michael from Millbray's referral code. So you're running out of time to order a Tesla and get free supercharging for life. So if you've been listening to the show, you've been thinking about ordering an S or an X, and you're thinking now might be the time, get yourself $1,000 off by using Michael from Millbray's referral code. Just punch this into your web browser. It's a short link. It's ts.la/Michael2204. Enter that, and it's going to bring you to a design studio. It'll ask you to choose S or X, whichever one you intend to order. Configure away, and you will get yourself $1,000 off of your vehicle there. Thank you so much to Michael from Millbray for donating the code, so I've got that chance to win the car. And thanks to all of you who've used it, because Michael from Millbray has now got himself an Elon autographed Powerwall coming his way, which he was writing me super psyched about, as he should be. Most of you subscribe to the show via a podcast service of some sort, but so if you don't do that, you're just listening on sort of an episode-by-episode basis, go ahead and subscribe. It's easier. Then it's just pushed to you automatically every week. You can subscribe on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, TuneIn, or via the RSS feed, which can be found at teslapodcast.libsyn.com. I want to give a sincere thanks, as always, to the Patreon producers, the very, very supportive folks who pledge $20 or more per month in support of my efforts on this podcast. That's Jeff Bartram, Paul Hussey, DJ Harbaugh, Pete White, Wolfgang Obergen, George Cassiopo, ZL Klein, David Brander, our friend Nick Hoffman we mentioned earlier, Jonathan Wales, John Waltower, Scott Gillis, Michael Lucas, and Alexi Heft. Again, email me at teslapodcast@gmail.com if you've got any interesting things for the podcast, any questions for me. You can follow me on Twitter as well at DMC_Ryan. That'll do it. I'll be here, of course. I'm not planning on taking any holiday time off for the podcast this year. I'm not traveling, so show's going to keep coming at you every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, as it has since the beginning, since I started it. So I will see you all back here next week. Happy electric motoring, everybody, and happy holidays as well.